Last Sunday, driving home after a long day, a long week, and quite frankly, a rather long and dark year, I saw Santa skateboarding down a street in my neighborhood. I've seen Santa before. He gets around this time of year, showing up in various locations prior to his big night out. I've never seen this particular Santa before. Dressed in shorts and wearing sunglasses, he was holding a long pole with a camera attached, holding it out in front of himself and filming his skateboarding descent down the sloping entryway into my neighborhood. I imagine he must have been trying to get the mountains as his background. He paused and started again every time a car drove into his shot. I tried to pause long enough to capture his videotaping efforts on my camera phone, but I gave up after he stopped multiple times. Here's this year's deep symbol for the season: my failure to capture Santa's failure to skateboard down a Southern California street with mountains and clouds in the distance. You remember last Sunday, it was not one of our classic sunny days here. Storms had been forecast for the coming week. Violent downpours and mudslides were in our future. The darkness of the season was coming. In the meanwhile, the sunglasses, short-bedecked Santa was determined to capture the perfect moment. I wonder if he ever got it. We all try to capture the perfect moment during the holidays, don't we? Or maybe we are tempted to skip the holidays altogether because the pressure to create perfect moments is just too much. My minister, the Reverend Dr. Lora, preached that the first Sunday in December is often the cusp, just before we begin the long, mad slide into Christmas/Hanukkah/solstice/Kwanzaa. The cusp, where many of us resolve not to do Christmas this year. This year, Thanksgiving was late, so Advent came early on November 30th. Because I was raised an Episcopalian Christian, I still observe Advent, but more in my mind these days than by putting out the calendar that I bought when my children were little, one of those cardboard, it's lasted this long, that it has little doors that you open and there's an ornament, little tiny ornament for each day, and then you build to the last, and finally the baby Jesus is the last arrival. I don't put it out anymore. It remains in a box in storage with most of my ornaments. I do have a 3-foot fake tree that I try to protect from our 2 cats. This year, it has only 4 ornaments on it because of the cats. Each year, I resolve to do less of Christmas, choosing instead to wrestle with the theology so that I can do Christmas as a minister. This year, I thought I'd start with mystery and wonder, writing this description of today's sermon for the newsletter. The gift of this time of year is to be reminded to gaze at our lives through the eyes of a child. We are reminded of mystery and wonder and the potential for joy in the smallest moments. Remaining open, we allow ourselves to be immersed in the darkness of the shortest days of the year, and with faith, we wait for the light to reappear. Mystery and wonder, that darling duo that's supposed to be present for us as we bake cookies, buy the presents, and sing the carols. mystery and wonder, possibility and awe. I have been waiting for mystery and wonder, possibility and awe to show up. But all I know on this third Sunday in Advent is what my minister taught me. It's not dark because it's Christmas. It's Christmas because it's dark. I'm just not ready for Christmas, not ready for the mystery and wonder part, the part where I gaze at my life as if I'm gazing through the eyes of a child. Not ready for the birth of hope. I refuse to enjoy the absurdity of a skateboarding Santa, refusing to see the possibility for joy in the smallest of moments. I'm not ready to sing along with the carols on the radio yet. It's not dark because it's Christmas because it's dark, I stubbornly intone. Besides, it's not Christmas yet anyway. It's Advent. And rather than engage with Fox News' trumped-up war on Christmas, I'm with the pundits and the theologians who are warning us that the real war of this dark season is the one being waged on Advent. Christmas, the way my family always celebrated it, is traditionally Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the 12 days that come after. It's not the shopping season that leads up to it, the 11 more shopping days that we now have left, when we get to decide if we say Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas to the harried department store employee. Theologian Diana Butler Bass has a great essay on this. She writes, "Does Fox News want us all to say Merry Christmas so we forget about Advent?" She writes, "These, after all, are the 4 weeks that the Christian tradition dedicates to God's vision of justice for the outcast and the oppressed, not to celebrating the sound of ringing cash registers or Victorian American values. Perhaps Fox News is a bit nervous," she says, "reluctant to come out in favor of Advent over Christmas, because the true tradition of this time period is to prepare a place for one of lowly birth who proclaims good news to the poor and the oppressed." It's not time to say Merry Christmas yet. We have not lived through the longest night of the year yet. The sun has not returned bright as a newborn babe yet. It's not time for mystery and wonder yet. It is time to acknowledge the darkness of the season, whether it comes from the current political situation or whether it comes from a personal darkness that seems to settle over us out of some deep, ancient knowing. Laurel Holman also taught me that this season is a season in which we are called to face the darkness head on and to sing anyway. This week, a Senate committee released their findings about the use of torture to interrogate terror suspects after the attacks of September 11th. The report is controversial, of course, and some would argue that the tactics used didn't amount to torture and that it is necessary to use such tactics to extract information and to protect our country. We listen to the arguments on both sides, and we wait for the birth of hope. Today marks the second anniversary of the Sandy Hook massacre that killed 20 children and 6 teachers on December 14th, 2012. Since that shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, there have been at least 94 school shootings in America, an average of nearly one a week. We mourn the tragic loss as we acknowledge the ancient wisdom in the symbol of light shining in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. Thousands of protesters walked down Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. yesterday to march alongside the families of African Americans killed in recent months by law enforcement officers. The families of Michael Brown, Eric Garner, and Tamir Rice were among those at the Justice for All March, where protesters carried signs reading, "Black Lives Matter." Thousands more marched in protests in major U.S. cities. We prayed today, just a few moments ago, in solidarity with Black churches because they asked us to. They asked us to pray with them for the safety of young Black men and an end to the systemic violence against them. We face the darkness head on, and we pray, we sing, we march. If you are feeling more despair than usual this year, you are not alone. 2 years ago, I received a phone call from a reporter asking if I would be addressing the Connecticut tragedy in my Christmas message. The reporter was interviewing local clergy, and having grown up a Unitarian Universalist, she was eager to include our approach to the tragedy during what is, she said, supposed to be a joyful time of year. She was aware that most clergy had immediately addressed the mass shooting at Sandy Hook the Sunday right after it had occurred. What she wanted to know was, would we continue to address the tragedy at a time of year when people are supposed to be happy? I reminded her that Unitarian Universalists always worship within the context of how the world is now. I assured her that even without specifically referring to the Connecticut tragedy, that it would be on our minds as we looked to this time of year, not as a time when we are supposed to be happy, but as a time that we acknowledge the ancient wisdom in the symbol of light shining in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. This is the time of year when the world turns from the darkness of the longest night to more light in the lengthening of each day. This turning from darkness to light and back again each year is not a choice. It is the way things are. If you find yourself despairing more than usual 1 year from the next, you have resources. You have each other. You have me, your minister. And you have a theology that allows you to despair until hope arrives at last in the natural course of the way things are. Wendell Berry's words have risen out of my consciousness this last dark week like a mantra. When despair grows in me and I wake in the night, at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. I tried forcing myself into mystery and wonder, possibility and awe, but it was too soon. Despair for the world and for my children's lives grows in me like an evil twin to the holy child of hope. But I know that's not the right analogy. I know that despair isn't evil. I know that if I wait with my despair, it will be born alongside the child of hope. And it will teach me as much wisdom as hope does, maybe more. Finally, at home in the grace of the world, I am content to wait for mystery and wonder, to arrive in its own time. Christmas will come amidst the shootings and the cancer and the recovery and the relapse. Christmas will come as the earth turns towards more light. In time, we can allow ourselves to be immersed in the darkness of the longest nights of the year, as with faith, we wait for the light to reappear. Now, I mentioned that I've seen Santa before, so I thought I'd better clarify what I meant by that. When I say that I've seen Santa Claus before, I mean that I have seen the Santa, the real one with a PhD in Santahood. For the past 25 years or so, the real Santa has visited a mall in Dallas. Now, there are always very long lines to visit with this Santa because he's the real Santa. One year, I waited with my girls most of the morning, and finally, we were getting very excited because our number was next. And then Santa went on a lunch break. So we took a lunch break too. On our way back from lunch, we stepped onto the escalator to go back downstairs to Santa's village and our appointment with Santa. And then Santa got on the escalator right behind us. The girls' eyes grew as large as sugar plums or some other Christmas reference. They were big. They were excited. It was quite mysterious and even wonderful how we rode the escalator with Santa that day and walked together with him to our appointment with joy. Christmas will come as the earth turns towards more light. In time, we can allow ourselves to be immersed in the darkness of the longest nights of the year as we wait in faith for the light to reappear. May it be so, and amen. If you find yourself despairing this year more than usual, please come and talk with me. If you are visiting and you want to learn more about Unitarian Universalism or this congregation, please come visit with me right after the service. And now, please join in our words that are printed in the order of service as we say together and extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing from the gray hymnal number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning.
We are the Caneo Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Our mission is to nurture spiritually courageous people who transform the world through justice and compassion. Like us on Facebook, check out our website at CVUUF.org, or come visit us. See you soon!